the first thing I'm going to do, just to get this is the only formal bit of the interview, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. I want to say a big welcome to everyone who is watching or listening anywhere around the world, anywhere around the UK. Thank you very much for joining us again, because today is episode 541 of the Simply Inspired podcast presenting champions. Thank you. It's very, very surreal to say that, but everyone who's stuck with us, thank you so much, guys. And for anyone tuning in for the first time, I'm here with a very, very special guest today, and I'm very, very excited to tell this man's story, not only because of the sporting aspect, which is obviously very big, but also because of the pure inspiration, because his story is pure inspiration. So today I'm with David Ainslie. Now, hopefully, I'm saying that the right way.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Good.
Uh,
I stand more.
thank you very much for getting me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, mate. It's absolutely my pleasure. And there's so much to share for our audience, not only talking about boxing and obviously the Midlands light heavyweight champion, which you are, and all of these
Thank
amazing,
you.
but also we'll be talking about quite a bit of inspirational topics behind the scenes in your life. And I'm also going to thank you on camera as well for getting a copy of my new book, The Greatness Within, which is now released, just to get that in there, guys. 12 inspirational stories. And David is one of the first people to get a copy of that. It's now selling all around the world. So you can grab your copies as well, guys. Greatness Within by Liam Hartree. But that's just to get that in there. But today, the champ is in the house, and I'm very.
Thank you very much. And just go back to your book for a wee minute. It was just, the title, The Greatness Within. Live a life less ordinary. Like that is really important for everyone to take on board, because who wants to be a sheep in this day and age? Eh? You need to be different and you need to find your true purpose in life. So I think this is going to be a very special book. As I said to you on the wee brief intro that we had, I've only ever read one book in my life, and it was the Jack Black Mind Store. So, and you have my word on it. I'll read this book. This will be the second book I've ever written and ever read in my 37 years of existence. So there you go. Second book.
Wow, I'm very honored. I'm very, very honored. And what I'm going to ask you to do as well, champ, is also to, if you can show your belt a little bit there as well, because you've also got your belt, which is.
But I thought I'd put the back for you. This is it. This is a big achievement of mine. I never thought I would ever have something like this from where I was before my past. I wasn't worth much to myself. And then, so just like you said, the title of your book, The Greatness Within, I didn't know that I had something in me that was lying dormant, and then I'm now bringing it to the surface. So, and I've achieved this throughout it for my kids and my family. So, something to be proud of. So, yeah, kind of goes hand in hand with the book.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, it does. And that's the other thing, mate. I'm gonna just carry on from what we were talking about just now,
Yep.
before we were recording, and you just take a minute to put that back. But yeah,
Yep.
having a good old chat about some things, and I was fascinated, and I still am fascinated by the common ground, right? Because like the story I just told you before we were recording, I'm very dyslexic, right? So when I was in school, I was told I wouldn't read and write basically, and I have now written a book. But then that, and I'm just giving our audience the context, that then that led into the common ground, ADHD,
Yep.
OCD. So I want to talk about a little bit of you overcoming some of those kinds of challenges before we get into the boxing, because there's a lot of people out there, men and women, but especially men, we don't speak about
Yep.
things enough who are struggling with this type of thing. So let's carry on from what we were just talking about just now with some of the struggles that you've had in that area and how you've been overcoming them and mastering your mind, basically, because it is just so inspiring.
Yep. So when I was younger, always, in the childhood days in school, I was always quite a good kid. When I was younger, I was quite well behaved, and that I was I deemed myself as quite a good kid. But I always did jump sport to sport, hobby to hobby. I got bored very quickly. Um, I seem to go into a sport, but every sport or any activity. So when I was young, I always jumped from sports, and I never really understood the bigger picture. But I would jump, as I said before, my nickname One Gear Davy, because I've got one gear and that's go. Everything I do, it's just full speed ahead, and I become kind of obsessed with it, you know. So when I put my when if I whatever it is that I do, the task at hand, I become quite obsessed, and it's quite full on. Sometimes it can be exhausting at the same time. and draining. So I always used to quite excel at sports, and then I would jump at something else and excel at that, and then jump at something else and get bored. That's just my partner coming at the house just now. I'm on a podcast just now. It's all right, come on.
Say hello.
That's fair. Fair, you want to come in for a minute? No, she's just came in for work. So yeah, where was I? I lost track of it. Yeah, so that's what it was. It wasn't until I got into my actual adulthood that the problems erupted. So I don't know how much we go into this, but I'll try and open up as much as I can.
As much as you, I gotta cut in there, mate, just so you
Yeah.
know what you're comfortable with, okay? No
Yeah.
more than you're comfortable with, because every question I ask, by the way, and I just gotta make this clear, is to help people, right? So everything I'm talking about is to help people. So
Yeah.
everything that we get into, I'm thinking, okay, there's somebody out there going through the same thing, there's somebody out there going through the same thing. It's never to probe into your life, it's just
Yep.
to inspire people. So only to your comfort level. But this concept, I don't like labels, you see, but this concept of like the ADHD, managing your dopamine, the biggest thing I want to put across is there's positive and negative coping strategies, right? So people get caught up in the more negative coping strategies and
Yep.
positive coping strategies. And that's the little bit I would like to touch on, like with your advice. That's the bit, as long as it's not too vulnerable for you.
No.
Some of the negative coping strategies and how you switch those into positives. I mean, it's as simple as that in a nutshell, I guess.
So it's only been in the last. It sounds embarrassing to say this, but it's only been in the last kind of year. There's been periods over a 5-year period, but it's only been in the last year that I've started to learn what the coping mechanisms are. So previously through my 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, 30s, and for a 10-year stretch, I never coped up. Sorry, I just bit my lip there. I never coped at all. Uh, I ended up getting introduced to drug called cocaine in my late 20s, and I'll say as much as I can on this because I don't mind speaking for myself, but I need to make sure I need to make sure I don't tarnish somebody else in the process. So there was a point in my life where I was married and I had 2 beautiful boys, and our marriage. Sorry.
Okay, my friend, you need to take a deep
It's all
breath.
right. Our marriage became very toxic, and the person I was living with was quite unwell, and the abuse was that I was ordealed to quite a lot of abuse, and I didn't understand it at the time. And somebody with ADHD as well, they can take on more than they can chew. So people with, I was diagnosed with ADD, attention deficit disorder. So it's a branch of ADHD. I don't think they call it ADHD anymore anyway. Um, and you're constantly, you can't live by yourself. You're constantly seeking attention and things like this. And I think I now know that's why I stayed in a toxic relationship longer than I needed to be, and which ended up a volatile relationship. And inevitably, I was quite badly abused, physically and mentally, and left with scars all over the place for that. And yeah, so I end up using cocaine as a substance to harbour my feelings, because when I used cocaine, it numbed me. It completely. I couldn't feel anything, and somebody could say whatever they want, or abuse you or say what they want, and you just wouldn't react to it. But if I was using alcohol, if I was drinking alcohol, it'd be a different story. I would react to it quite. I would tolerate that kind of behaviour. So I ended up getting myself in a right hole with cocaine, and inevitably ended up in rehab. At that time, the employer that I was with, I had something called private healthcare with Bupa, which I was extremely lucky to have, because without that, I don't think I would have gained the tools and experience today that I know of. However, it didn't fix me, but we'll go into that later on. But I ended up going to a place called Castle Craig. It's a private, it's an old castle down in Peebles. It's a private rehab facility, and it costs a lot of money to get there, but the insurance paid for it. So I was lucky enough to be there. So it was only then that was diagnosed. For your first week, they plug in machines, these wee things that go in your head, and you play a game. It's like Tetris on the screen, and then they go through levels, and that's how they measure your dopamine levels, how they spike through. So it turned. I did fire. Nothing was firing with me, and that's obviously a side effect with using cocaine, because you're used to high dopamine level spikes. But also with the ADHD, that's where you're constantly seeking adrenaline sports and high energy sports. So that's when I actually got diagnosed with all these health issues. So I went under the radar all my life, up and down like a yo-yo. And it wasn't until I got to this set point in my life that I was diagnosed with these. Um, However, that worked for a year. I got a year clean and sober. Then you're back out to the big bad world again, and it wasn't enough for me, because I was still with the same partner, still living the same kind of life, and the problems all came back again, and uh, it went on for years again, kind of. So that's where I get to this point. There's more after that, but that's where I get to this point. If you wanted to say anything,
Yeah, I will, because, well, first of all, it's very, very inspirational, right?
yeah,
And the other thing I got to tell you as well, mate, is you might not realize this, but they did a massive survey in the States a few years ago, right, about people's number one fears, right? Might sound a bit strange, but they found that public speaking was the number one fear in the world, right? And more people were afraid of public speaking than they were of actually dying, right?
yeah,
It was something like public speaking was number one, then dying, then like earthquakes or something, and it went down the list. But the point is, public speaking number one, right? So when you're doing this and you're basically public speaking and you're sharing vulnerability like this, it's an
yeah,
incredibly brave thing to do. So give yourself a pat on the back, because we're doing this to help others, right? Now,
of course,
that's the question here that people will be interested to know about as well. Is obviously you're quite a tough individual, right? I mean, I'm looking at the hand there, and you obviously we'll talk about boxing, but when it comes to being a strong person, mentally, physically, being able to stand up for yourself and all of that now, versus obviously taking the abuse for so long, then. What was the change in your mindset? Because now you're obviously a lot more empowered, to do the boxing. Obviously, you're in a great relationship now as well, which is all really nice to hear. But there was obviously a change in the mindset of thinking, I'm not going to take this anymore, take the abuse anymore. And I'm curious, like when that started to shift again, just to help other people who might be going through a similar thing.
So I'm a big softie. That's just who I am. I've always been a big softie. I personally would feel this way, that I'm the nicest person you'll ever meet. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. I'm just very vulnerable. I'm a very vulnerable individual, and I've always lived with anxiety and fear. Everything, even as a kid, you're always just scared of everything. And Mike Tyson talks about it a lot. Mike Tyson talks about, and you see these clips and reels on Facebook, and he talks about in interviews that he's more afraid of you than you are of him, and that's why he reacts in these ways and more aggressively. And that kind of makes sense. Obviously, he's a completely different breed from me, but that makes sense to me. When leading up to these fights, I think I'm far more afraid to go in that ring or that cage than these people are of me. It haunts me for weeks leading up to it. I can't sleep, and I think of all the worst that can happen, and I just don't feel great in myself, and I don't like fighting either. But I've got to. There was something I realised that I've got to do it, because there's a bigger picture to everything. You've got to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. You've got to get used to being, that feeling of being uncomfortable, training hard, doing things that you don't want to do. Fear is really important. You need fear, because without fear you don't excel in life. Fear is actually one of the most important attributes to have. The more fear you've got, the more you're going, and if you use that and utilize that, you're going places. That's a fact. That's a fact. See, if you're not scared of anything and you live life and not scared, you're not going to reach your highest potentials. But you need to use it in the right way. And once you lock in, if you lock in with your fears and anxieties, and you get a good planning action, who knows where you can go? And that's the truth. That's the truth. That's the only reason I do all this fighting is to be the best version of myself. Try and keep as sober as I can. Be a strong individual for my family and for my kids to look up to, and to see what's inside here. You know, because I've always known that there's something more that I can give rather than partying and living life for the weekends. And as soon as every Friday comes up, oh, let's do what everyone else does: go to the pub, drink, take lines of coke, and just just this awful circle that society seems to be in now. It's just the norm. That's what everyone does, and it should be what everyone does, but it is what it is, and everyone's just getting stuck in this pity party. And we just blame the world for everything. We call it the pity party, and that's why I'm not afraid to talk about it, because they're just in this last year and over the course of 5 years, but mainly this last year or two, I've learnt a lot. And if I could help others, then it can. I'd love it to help others, because I'm surprised I'm still here to this day from the stuff that I've done before. Like, I have no idea how I'm still walking this planet. So yeah,
Well, absolutely. I mean, from my own experiences, there's so many things that are so relatable, to be honest with you, mate. I mean, I'm just taking that in because, like we were talking about earlier, the ADHD, the dyslexia, the OCD aspect that you mentioned. I mean, there's all of these different things. It's amazing, and that's why I want to spread the message. And these days, I look at it. They say about being neurodiverse, and they say about this type of thing, and I prefer that because there's a lot of talents that come with it, but there's also some difficulties as well.
yep.
So, and what you said there about the cycle, by the way, the drinking, drugging, escaping reality. I mean, you gotta be happy enough with yourself, and you gotta build a life you don't want to escape from. In the
Yep.
first, and it's a very very powerful advice. So the boxing, okay, you don't like fighting, but you do it. How many fights have you had so far? Then, what are we talking about?
So I've had three. I've had three fights now, and the three fights have all been they've all been finished quite early. They've knockouts in the first round, and they've not lasted very long. And you know, I get a wee bit of backlash from the fights because people they don't think the opponents in front of me are good enough. They think it's mismatched. But the reality is, I only started boxing 2 years ago. So there's a big thing on Facebook where Fabio Wardley, he's just beat Joseph Parker. He
Yeah.
never had one amateur experience. So he had 4 or 5 or 6 white collar fights, which is kind of what I'm doing, before he went into pro boxing. And now he's just knocking out people, completely knocking out people because he's so stubborn. He refuses to get beat. And that's a bit like me. I'm not getting beaten. You will have to take me out if when I go in that ring. You will have to physically take me out because I won't get beat. Um, but the minute that bell goes, I go in guns blazing, absolutely guns blazing, full on. And I've not really had a fight on my hands yet, as such. I've just overpowered everyone. It's not cool. I'm not meaning to brag about it. It's just that's the all this. I personally think it's all that trauma and everything that you've been harbouring for years and years and years and years, and running scared and doing this and taking abuse and taking this and that, and it just comes out. You can see it in my eyes. If I don't know if you've watched any of the fights, so you can see it, but there's people coming. They just say it's not you. It's like a complete shutter. It's like somebody else's that's in there, and that's the only thing I can think of. I'm fighting for my life, and yeah, that's so. I've had 3 fights, 3 wins, 3 knockouts, all in the first round.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing from where you've come from to where you are today. I mean, it's pure inspiration. And I've got to say then, winning the belt that you were showing us earlier. I mean, how did that feel what goes through your mind when you became the champion and, from starting not that long ago to, already having a title. It's an must be an amazing feeling, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you, because it's only right that the people know. I give a shout out to the people who got me into boxing. So firstly, um, I started boxing with who I've now currently went back to is my coach Bruce Paisley. He's an incredible human being. So when I was going through a bad stage in my life, he got me in for a couple of one-to-one pad sessions. He said, "Come off the streets." I was up to no good, I don't want to incriminate myself, but being an arse. And he got me in, and we were doing some pad work sessions, teaching me how to punch. And I was always quite big because the kind of lifestyle I was living, and I was quite juiced up, and I was into bodybuilding. And he used to say, "You've got some power in your hands. You should continue this." And I booked a white collar event. It was a charity event because I thought, do you know what? If I book a training camp, it'll help me, and it did. I went on the straight and narrow, and everyone was laughing at me, going, David going in for a fight. And I done it for a charity it's called Dad's House. It's for single dads. So there's another element to my life that I didn't touch on, that my kids were abducted from me years ago. 4 years ago, I went to pick up my kids from school, and they went there.
Deep breaths, Mike. If it's too much, we can always take a break.
No, that's okay. And long story short, it turned out that they were taken, and my ex-wife had taken them they were found in New Zealand, and they were taken without my consent. And it took me the best part of a year to get them back. The Scottish government were involved. It's called the Hague Convention Unit. It's a Scottish child abduction team, got them back for me. And with the help of my parents as well. My dad was a massive influence in that. But that took a massive impact on my life. And then that's when my life went downhill again. And so that happened. And during that time, I was a lost cause when the kids were away. I didn't know what was happening. And to be honest, the system, the police, everything like that weren't any good. But if that was a man, so this is where I want to talk about men, because men struggle, when they have divorces and they don't get to see their children. It turns out there's so many men that take their lives over divorces because they don't get to see their kids. There's so many. I didn't know this at the time until I was dealing with lawyers and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a massive thing. So I thought I would do it for my kids. I thought I would do a charity event for my kids, and that's why I signed up to that. And it was the best thing I ever done because that's what got me into boxing. So it was almost like God got involved in my life, and he planted something in my life for it to exactly what I needed for it to change, and it was exactly what I needed. And I trained up, and it was a club called. So when you sign up to one of these events, you have a new coach. It's at a new boxing club, and the club was East House's boxing club, and then the main coach was Bobby Collins, another great human being. So trained with him and went into my first white collar event, and won award, knockout of the year award for that. And then I stayed on further at the club and trained for another fight under East House's boxing club. And that was called Train for Fight. And I had a fight with a chap, a big guy, big hard guy. I won that as well with knockout. And so I have to thank Bobby as well for keeping me on this track. So his name's Bobby Collins. And I chose to go on a different path with my training because I got offered a new job. So my life started getting better. I started getting on track, and things were getting better. And I started thinking clearer and thinking more mature. My kids came back to me as well. So I was a full-time dad to two kids. And my parents helped out massively with them, looking after them. So I had to, not had to be seen, that's the wrong word, but I managed to get a full-time job again, because before I was just self-employed and spinning plates to meet financially meet, doing homers and doing jobs and self-employed and all over the place. So I got a job at the hospital as an electrician. That's what I do as a living. And the job it works. It's on a shift pattern. So unfortunately, I couldn't fight for that club anymore because the shifts are all over the place, and you can't meet like a Tuesdays 7 p.m. You know, like your set times. So I went back with my coach who got me into boxing, Bruce, who's my friend as well, and he knows me. He knows me from school. He knows exactly how I think. He knows all my problems, all my demons. Knows how I fight. And he says you're not a boxer. You're just a fighter. So he was trying to use this venom that was in me, this sort of angry sort of Mike Tyson like fighting technique that I've got in me, and also try to teach me a bit of boxing because I was just a fighter. You know, I had no skill to me. I mean, so he refined my skills, and we trained 3, 4 days a week. Bruce put everything into me, all the time into me and then we got a call to step in on a fight. It's a company called RF Sports. I think they're on behalf of Simply Match boxing events, and they were looking for a fighter for a light heavyweight title fight. And I thought, I'm in. I'll do it. And my coach was like, "This is what I love about you because you're so what's the word? Spontaneous.
Yeah.
You just something comes in your head and you'll just go for it. There's not too much thought and not too much planning. You'll just go for it." And we had 8 weeks to train for it, and best 8 weeks ever. It was fantastic, and anything that could have happened in that 8 weeks did happen. For every reason for me to pull out that fight. And the guy that was meant to be fighting, he pulled out 2 weeks before it, and they changed the opponent, and I had to cut a lot of weight for the new opponent. So just every obstacle that got in my way, I was winning that fight. I knew I was winning that fight. Nobody, and it doesn't matter what went. I was too. Do they call it hyper focus with ADHD?
That's
Hyper
right.
focus. It's such a superpower because see when you're so hyper focused, it doesn't matter what goes in your way. You'll just get through it because it's what you want to do. So with the ADHD, the ADD, whatever we want to call it, if that's the path that you're on, and you're true to yourself, that's the path on. Nobody can break you from that path. It's just you're too hyper focused. And yeah, I went down to that fight, and it lasted best part of 19 seconds. Just went in, and unfortunately, not fortunately, but unfortunately, knocked the guy out. It was quite a serious knockout. Um, Winning the belt at the time, and it wasn't a good scene at the time because the guy was quite unwell after. It wasn't. It put a damper on the night, how the night ended, how the fight ended. So, but after it was a great feeling. It was a massive achievement. And then the phones have been going off the hook for, once you pick up a belt, it doesn't matter what type of belt it is, but when you pick up a belt, other promoters are phoning you because they want you on their shows and, offering you this and offering you that. And it's really exciting. But I broke my hand in the fight. So I shattered my thumb knuckle at the fight. So I need to wait for this to heal. But I'm still training. I still train 2, 3 times a week, even with this. I just work on my left hand and work on my movement now. So yeah, it was a surreal feeling. And the fact that I had my dad and my kids there to watch me meant the world to me. And that meant a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. That is an incredible story, and the transformation in your life is just incredible. So that is, I mean,
Thank
absolute,
you.
absolute inspiration. Like I knew when I reached out to you, I just, I've got a good instinct, obviously, for reaching out to people with inspiring stories, and this is definitely living up to that. I was going to ask something else you mentioned earlier. You said it was almost like God put this in your life and changed the trajectory of your life. I mean, is that something, do you believe in like a higher power of some form in that way?
So when you're in rehab, so this was how many years am I going? So when I was in rehab 7 years ago, they always believe that you need to believe in a higher power for you to get clean and sober. And I agree with that. But the thing with a higher power, people can put their child as a higher power, their late granny, the granny that they, loved dearly but died several years ago, they can put, you know, a star as the higher power. And this is where I think people get it wrong. So I walked into 5 years ago, I walked into a church and I had many addictions. I'm not, the drinking the drug and, several others. And I went in and the church was called CRC Church, and they're based in Edinburgh, and it's a born again Christian church. And I walked in there 5 years ago, FC UK, can on my, like I was a waste of space. And I won't go into it too much because I still don't understand it that much. As I say, I don't read much. I don't gather information on things. But all I know is I gave my life to Jesus on that day. And after that day, I never smoked, drank, took drugs, and several other things for over a year and a half. It completely disappeared. So people spend all this money or try to fight to get to rehab centres. And I walked into a church and I came out and every single addiction was vanished with ease, vanished, gone. It wasn't even a struggle. So when I was in rehab, that I was white collaring every day. And, every day you're white knuckling, they call it. Like the thoughts are all still there. You're still every day you're battling. For today, I will not use and I will not drink and take drugs. And it was like a deep day as it came. When I left there, it's like it never really existed. I was free, and it was probably one of the best year and a half in my life. And then what happened is I distanced myself from the church, and they say that the the devil or the demons come back 7 times stronger when you're favoured by God, and you disappear from the church. They attack you 7 times stronger. That's what happened, and that's what happened with the kids when I lost my home, lost my kids, lost my wife, all that kind of stuff. So that's what happened then. But it's only recently I went back to the church, went back to God and believing in God, and since then I won't look back. I won't look back because I know it works. I know it works. It gives me so much peace. I don't know if you see the reels on my Facebook, but I speak about God quite often. Um, and do you know what? I think, see, 4 or 5 years ago when I used to speak about it, when I used to speak about my testimony on Facebook, I was laughed at. People went, oh, here's David Ainslie. Oh, something new in his head. I get it. I totally get it. But see, now I think with the Charlie Kirk thing, it's cool to believe in God now. It seems to be far more open now. People talk about God a lot now, and do you know what? Since talking about God and being on this fighting journey, my inbox on my Instagram and Facebook, you would never believe the people who I'm talking to. Like, I'm just me from Edinburgh. I only started boxing a couple of years ago. I'm speaking to all these pro boxers and fighters, and I'm not going to mention their names, but because I speak about God and the fighting in God, they really respect that. I speak to them daily, and it's amazing. God puts people together. It really he puts good people together, the right people together. It's the right people together, and it's weird how my life is now shaping in a way that for once I'm actually starting to love. Like really love how my life is going. And obviously, I've got to say massive thanks to my partner because I met her 3.5 years ago, and she put up with hell for the first part of the relationship, absolute hell. So she stuck around for me, and she was a walk for me. So I'm very lucky to have her, and everyone says I'm very lucky to have her. And she has 3 boys as well. So together, it's me, her, and we've got 5 young boys that we look after. I don't know if you can see me here, but this is what she has. I don't know if you do.
Oh yeah, the whole family.
So that's us, a big family. So this is everything I do, the fighting, this is what I do it for. This is everything in the one picture. This is what I do it for. So yeah, I think that's how everything's going so well at the moment because of that.
It's a beautiful thing, that is, Jan. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Relationship and the way that what you said earlier as well about like being a good role model for your kids and showing them what's possible as well. You know, that's the other thing. But
Yep.
seeing it about God and everything like that, absolutely, I'm on the same page with you, by the way, just so you know. It's yet
Cool.
another thing, it's yet another thing, exactly the same experience, like the ADHD, the OCD, the whatever, or I mean, I don't like labels, but all of these neurodiverse type things, you know, the God experience that you had there is exactly the same. And there were two very rock bottom points in my life, you know, one of them mentally, one of them more physically, but on both times, handing over everything in the same way that you described it, it's absolutely transformative. I'm really glad that we've got that message, and that explains how we met. That explains a lot.
Exactly. Exactly.
We met, and that explains why I had the feeling to reach out to you, and you know why you bought the book, and we connected, and just all of these things that we've got in common. There's a few stories in there. I'm just gonna make one change here with my light because the sun's coming in
Yep.
in a second. With that, and managed to sit still this long, but that needs a little bit because I
I
sit.
know. I know. For both of us sitting this still for this long.
Yeah, it is amazing. But no, that about God and taking the pressure off yourself, because I'm a big believer. Obviously, the forgiveness side of it I've experienced as well, because you know in my life I've
Yep.
obviously made some mistakes, but also taking the pressure off. You know, that's the other thing is I think in the world today there's very much a type of arrogance that people have, even if it's not arrogance like that, but it's just, you know, I can get through life on my own, I can take everything on my shoulders. And I went through a process of that. I was thinking, okay, is it, you know, if I'm sort of depending on God as well for everything, I went through a process of thinking, is that like a mental weakness? And I thought, no, it's actually a mental strength because I'm humble enough to accept guidance. And that's why when I pick people to interview, like we're talking now, I always go with that feeling. I always
Yep.
play on it basically and think, okay, is this the right thing? Because, you know, sometimes I get offers to do interviews and somebody can be a big superstar person or whatever, and I just think, you know what, this just doesn't feel right. The thing that they're representing here,
Yep.
not aligning. And other times it feels right when you can't explain it. So we're definitely on the same page with a lot of stuff. Stay in there, my friend. Stay in there as long as you can, because when you come out of there, what you said about the attacks from the you know the dark forces, whatever name you want to use for it, it's a real thing as well. I've had
It's real. It's real. Everything that the church said was going to happen happened. You know, I came into a lot of money as well at one. Well, due to separation, that selling the house and stuff. I came into a a large sum of money, and you know what? You know what it did? It made me a 10 times worse person because I wasn't in church, because I wasn't grounded, because I wasn't planted, because my character wasn't in check. I had all these flaws. It just exaggerated every flaw. But if you have addictions, a bad attitude, ego issues, all these, and you chuck money in that, you're a goner.
yeah,
Like, you know, uh, and I won't say any figures, but I lost everything in a year. This large sum of money that I had, I lost it all in a year. Um, but would I change it? No, I wouldn't. Sometimes I wish I could change it, and think smartly and have thinking, but I wouldn't in a way because I learned so much out of those mistakes. I learned, dealing with all those mistakes and bad decisions. Uh, that's so valuable. See what you learn out of that. It's such a valuable experience. And I think with the God situation, he needed me to go through that because I've got these five young boys behind me. So I think I had to go through all that for five other boys to learn from it. So does that make sense?
because then you could teach them, you know, and
Exactly.
I'm a big believer as well in the contrast side of things. And what I mean by that is, you know, you appreciate the light more when you've been in the dark. You know, it's like you can't have the night without day, and you can't have, you know,
Yeah.
very well for somebody to sort of grow up and be on the right path from an early age, and that's great if you can do that. And hopefully, like you know, with your boy, you'll encourage that. But sometimes it's necessary for some people to go really off tracks, and you think, right, I know what's there, I know
Yep.
I know like how you feel. So even with myself, the concept of sin, if you like, or whatever you want to call it, and the weight of carrying that stuff with you and not telling people about it, and secrecy,
Yep.
loneliest thing in the world. Something like what's the other thing? When you know you're doing something wrong and you can't stop yourself. I mean, as you know better than most,
Is
how
this like is this like being a hypocrite, or is that what you mean, or
you know deeply how it feels so you can pass the message on to other people.
just like sinning, basically? No, but this isn't something to joke about. But my nickname I used to also get called David Sinner as well. It was a nickname. Pals used to go, "Oh, David Sinner's out tonight, out tonight," because he used to sin,
Yeah.
and and that's still, that. Remember we talked about chattering earlier on. That will always lie. That will always lie somewhere around luck around me, because the flesh, the human flesh. We were born to sin. We're sinners, and we'll never be perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. We should sin every day, but as long as you live, people see God how they want to see Him. But even just the Bible is a good way of living. It's a good way of living. See, if you don't want to believe in God or whatever, but see, if you live by the Bible, you're on to half a chance of getting going well, doing well in life, because it's a book of how to conduct yourself well and how to live life well and treat others well. If you could go through life doing that, you're going to have a pretty good life.
There you go. And that's what I'm saying. So but then because you've experienced the night, and now you're in the day, if you like, and you've experienced both sides, you're in a very good position to share that message. People will listen to you, and that's what I meant earlier. People will actually listen because you know the depth of how it feels to live that good life.
I've experienced some dark days. I don't come across it, and I don't think a lot of people do know, but I've never publicised it. But I've lived some dark moments in my life, and God is my savior. Jesus is my savior. That's a fact, and I'll say that on camera. Without him, I would be here.
Absolutely, and that's just amen to that, brother. And that's all I'm saying is it's such a contrast, and that God's taking you through that to
Yep.
the different sides so you can show other people. Okay, I meant to ask something else earlier and I forgot about this, but when you said about like also the boxing and the faith and basically everything about your transformation,
Yep.
you said people have laughed at you and thought, okay, this
Yep.
guy is not going to last the course with this. This is just another idea. I mean, what is the response now that you are staying on the right path, you are staying the course, you are doing everything that you've said? I mean, are you getting more love now, or are you still getting people waiting for things to change?
It's a funny one, that. Um, it's a very tricky question, that, because yes and no. So it turns out in life, for me anyway, I'm not saying for anyone, but for me, it turns out the better that you do, the more people have got a lot to say about you. So it's a life is a funny thing. There's a lot of people out there that get very jealous of your success, and it turns out it was the people who were actually closer to me. So I've had some amazing experiences, like going out to you know, as I say, I don't want to say people's names or anything, but going out for a restaurant, and the manager of the restaurant's giving me and my partner a free meal in the house, for the win of the fight. Like, just small gestures like that, there's just loads of people that I don't really know have been so kind, and lots of loving messages and caring messages, and by the way, lots of people reaching out for help, because I talk quite openly about my struggles in the past and God, and there's loads of people. So it's came with, there's been a big door that's opened to a lot of positive, but there's all I've got more. There's probably far more jealousy now than there was before. So when you're not doing very good and you're stuck in a rut, you know people have got a lot more to say when you start doing well. So I'm not saying I'm doing well, but I know I'm on to something, and I'm enjoying the life I'm on just now. And but there's always people that want to pop a pin in your success. They just want to burst that bubble, and it's really sad. It's really sad, but I think I've just come to terms with that's a society we live in nowadays, because I think everyone's all a bit messed up and they just hide it. They just hide it better than others. So I'm quite an open person. I've always been an open person. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I've always been like that. And verbal diarrhea, and a lot of people knows my business. It's just because I don't really care. I don't really care, but deep down I do. When people want to try and uh, puts negativity on me or something, that I do care. I do care, but at the end of the day, I don't care because I keep on doing what I want to do anyway. Because I can't help it. I can only be me. I can't change being me. God, please believe me, I've tried changing who I am, and it doesn't work. So um, yeah, it's there's been lots of positives and lots of negatives, but I want to try and concentrate on the positives. I want to try and spend a wee bit more time with the church. I want to try and I try to tell people as much as I can about God. Um, I'm not a very good speaker when it comes. I'm not a very good speaker. I don't speak out in public, and I don't do these kind of things. It's the first podcast I've ever been, and I don't do it, so I don't have the right vocabulary in them. But what I do speak is I speak from the heart. I always have the speak from the heart, and I think the church are quite interested to have me working closely with them because when I talk to people, they know it's from the heart. They know it's raw material, and I don't hold back. You know, some things I might say might have, leave me open for backlash, but I, people listen. People seem to listen, and I just think if more people were to believe in God or take up that opportunity to go to church, it would save a lot of people's lives. And I think that's what the current climate needs now. I think the current climate out these streets need people who are warriors of God, people who have been through all that crap and been through the hustle and bustle and go up to no good. And they need reformed characters to go out in these streets and change people because I don't think they'll listen to other people, bankers or politicians or people of that curriculum. I don't, and if they would come out and talk about God, I don't think people take them seriously. But I think the people who were rotten, people who were damaged, the people who have lived a life of sin, who have turned it round, generated their life round, and then they're going out and speaking how this has changed their life. I think a lot of people would listen to them. So who knows? Maybe that's something that I could do later on in the future if I get good at speaking.
Well, what you said is true, though. I mean, very much from the heart, very, very raw, very unfiltered, very genuine, real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is what people need to hear. And yeah, we need a lot more of that. We need a lot more people speaking about these kinds of things. And that's another reason I put the book out as well, is to share these kinds of stories. And, it's something, I've got another theory on it that I won't go too much into today, but let's just say that I believe that I know people from different religions, right? So, and different people call God different names, and that's cool. And
Yeah.
I interview them all. But I think that in a way, the pleasure seeking in the world today and the materialism basically is a religion of its own, but it's a negative version. It's like the opposite, like the antithesis of what it should be. And when people say about commercialism, capitalism, whatever, and you look at that and you think, okay, so we believe in Jesus, we believe in God, we
Yep.
saved, and therefore, we pray and we repent and we do our thing and we get a certain result. And people have been misled to believe that the materialism will get them to heaven, if you'd like. So in other words, you have this car and you won't suffer anymore. When you make this much money, you won't suffer anymore. It will make you happy. It'll, when you like doing the drugs, it'll make you happy. You can forget about your troubles. And people have been misled in that way. And I think it's a religion. It's not really a religion, but it's like an evil version of a religion, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Follow it. And even when you think about bankers, politicians, I mean, the materialistic belief, he who dies with the most toys wins, I mean, it's not true, but they think that. And bear with me, I froze in a minute. There we are. I froze for a minute there. I'm back now. Yeah, and they think that when I get to, and it's people have really been lied to in that way. And we need to tell people the truth about where real happiness and real satisfaction. Because that's the other thing, by the way. I mean, we're talking about boxing now, and we're talking about like some of these big names of like, even myself. I've spent time with like Tyson Fury, Floyd Mayweather, Frank Bruno, all of these,
Yep.
like, but I'm much happier now since I've embraced the faith than I was when I was having all of that success, if you like, with
Yep.
that. And so it's, people need to hear the truth. I'm going off on a tangent here, but all I'm saying is your message is absolutely awesome. Keep sharing.
Thank you.
People
But
need,
the materialistic world doesn't work. I tried it. I tried it. I used to drive about a Bentley with all the designer clothes, flying off to Marbella, pool parties, spending fortunes, and I was miserable. I used to cry driving my Bentley. I used to cry driving my Bentley, and we were sold it, like what you said, we were sold a lie, and it, as I said previously, if your character is not in check, having a financial implant in your life it makes it worse. It makes it worse. I'm not saying finances are not good and money's not good. Money is good, but if you're walking with faith and the money is coming in as for the path that you're meant to be walking on, then God will bless you with that, and it'll be and you'll be filled with abundance of finances that's
Mm.
suited for you. But if it's not suited for you, mm, good luck. Good luck on that road that you're on. I,
I'm,
I don't see it going very well. I tried it myself. I tried living life on my terms. I tried it on my terms. 37 years of it, and it didn't work. So I live life have believing in God, and it works a lot better than it did on mine. So
I've got another question for you then about this, okay? So, driving a Bentley, you were crying, okay, it's driving a Bentley. Now, here's another thing that okay, so that's the materialism. There's another question here. I hope it's not too personal.
yeah,
When you're talking about pool parties and Marbella and all that, I mean, obviously the girls and that side of it is another factor of the life, right?
yeah.
How does that compare now to when you're in like this proper loving relationship with your partner now you've got your 5 boys to like when you're chasing casual stuff and all that? Because I got a feeling that's part of your transformation as well, if you don't mind me asking.
Well, the pool parties and all that kind of was never really about women. It was more ego. It was ego. It was who was. See, when you look back on it now, you're insane. You're actually insane. So it was more the ego. You're going to like the popular. You're paying a lot of money just to sit at a bloody table, like the table that we're sitting at just now. You're spending thousands of pounds to sit at a table, then you're spending ridiculous amounts of money. No, thousands percent more than the bottle actually costs in a shop. Thousands of percent more. Uh,
Noise.
just ridiculous amounts of money for a crappy bottle of vodka on the table, and so it was more image. It was for me. It was never really about the women. There's been stages in my life where women has been an issue, but it was more of a look at me, like Mr. Show Off, because you're not happy within yourself. You're you're a mess inside. The desire of loving yourself inside. You might love yourself in a different way. You're loving your ego is different from actually loving your true self. Like what your book, The Greatness Within, your true self. I just don't feel that this day and age. In fact, I'm quite positive on it. I don't think 90% of people, men, I can only speak for myself, but I'm a great believer that men it's only 10% that are actually true to themselves. The other 90% are lost. They work jobs that they don't want to work. But that is society. We can't get too caught up in, oh, I'm just going to do what I want to do, because that's not the real life that we live in. But that's where I find that the church and with God, when you start figuring out your purpose, things become a bit clearer in life. Everything, your vision, rather than walking through the mist, when the mist starts to settle, you see things clearer. And people are so scared nowadays to do a career shift, to change their career. Oh my God, I can't change my career. Oh my God, like, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to do this? Oh, I'm too old for that. Things like that. But I just think if you were to walk with, when you go to a church group, these people who go to church, they're a good bunch of people, and some of them have walked, years and years and years in the faith, and they're so far down the road than you, and they've seen so many people like myself come and go, and they've got great wisdom and knowledge. and anything's possible. Anything's possible. You can reshape. You can totally 360 your life, and you could go on a year of church, and less than a year in church, and your whole the way you're living for this, maybe doing this sort of job, this 9 to 5 job, you could end up being in a totally different job, doing something totally different, and you could be the happiest person you've ever been, and you've just wasted 30 years behind you.
Yeah.
Or maybe not wasted. That's maybe a bad term, because everything that you do is for a reason, and you pick up knowledge and wisdom from things. So yeah, so that's why I
Well,
like that.
amen to everything you said there, and
Amen.
the image thing, yeah, it's a big part of it. I mean, I've been caught up in that myself. I know how it goes. But also, it's the problem in the world today, is wanting to project this. So, hopefully we're giving people some different perspectives on things. Coming back to the boxing as well, because we need to, because it'll be the
Yep.
last sort of couple of topics now as we come to the
Yep.
taste. I want to talk about your future plans. I want to talk about, when the hand is healed and when everything's all good, where you're going to be. Like, say if we were having this conversation like a year from now, or, 2 years from now, or, whatever, however far ahead you want to plan. I'd like to talk about where you envision yourself being with the boxing, but also with any other areas of your life as well that you feel comfortable sharing. Like basically just to talk about your future plans, mate, to be honest. That's
So, regarding boxing, there's there's been a few things, a few cards on the table. I can't really discuss them just now because I don't know where I'm going. But all I can say is I'm continuing the journey that I'm on. I'm not stopping. So there's going to see plenty more of me about, and I'm going to be pretty active. That's for sure. Um, so I'm coming on 38 years old. So I'm not young anymore. And as I say, I started this journey to better myself, uh, and it has been. So it's working. So if it's what's the saying? If it's not broke, don't. What's that saying?
don't fix it. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So go with that saying. This is working, so I'm going to continue with it. I am aware that I've only got an extra year or two, maybe more. Who knows? I might have a couple of years left. I want to try and achieve as much as I can in those 2 years, and I am that person that when I've got my mind to something, I can achieve more than I can achieve things because there's a very hyper focus. So I'm sticking around, and I'm planning on being very, very, very active. My work are very supportive with me. I work in a hospital, so I get special treatment with injuries like this. Um, so I've got a couple of months out for this. Um, as I said, I've not stopped training. God's planted me with, I've still got a left hand and I've still got 2 feet to keep moving about. So I'm still training, working on everything I'm not good at because I always had a good right hand. My left wasn't so good and my movement wasn't as good. So I'm now adapting all these. So, you know, talk about God. God might have put me out of action with this for me to work on the areas that I wasn't very good at because I'm very stubborn. I always try to, you know, stick to what I'm good at. So I think God's took this right hand out so that I can work on everything else and become up to scratch where I need to be. So this time round, I want to be tested. I want the next fight to be somebody of significance. Um, I have been approached by amateur boxing clubs to go into amateur boxing and fight for clubs, and I feel with that that might, I don't know if it will set me back, but I feel that with this white collar stuff that I could get lots of fights. That I could be fighting far more actively than I was in amateur. So I think I'm going to start. Hopefully, I'm not that good with social media, but with fighters these days, especially with white collar stuff, it's all about who's hot and who's not. So the people who have got a lot of presence, online presence about them, are very good at social media. They're the ones getting all the big fights. It's not necessarily that they're good fighters, but I feel that we're going to do something shortly to try and get a big name, a relatively big name, um, off the white collar events. and but we'll see. I'll if I can get something locked in, I'll let you know. But there has been I have had fight opportunities, and come my way, and people are starting to pay quite significant money and stuff like that. So it's exciting. It's exciting news.
Absolutely. Well, that is what I wanted to hear, really. I mean, that you're keeping on this path. You're going to max it out, see how far you can take it, and just keep moving forward. Because the other thing as well is when you're boxing, you're becoming a better person. You're
Yeah,
becoming, but you're then inspiring other people. It allows your message to continue to grow. It allows
yeah,
more to aware. So, I kind of see it like when you're winning, you're not just winning for you, you're kind of winning for everybody who's
yeah.
fighting in life, and I just absolutely love that. Okay, last couple of things then. We also need to mention you. I know you say about the social media and all this. I mean, I love your content and some of the things you put out there. But how can other people follow you if they're hearing this story for the first time and sort of get connected with you and join in the journey?
Well, I wonder if you can help me with that, because with the social media things, I'm not that great. So my name is David Ainsley. My Instagram is DAinsley88. If you'd like to follow me on that. So that's only two platforms I'm on at the moment. So Instagram and Facebook. I'm a member of a team. It's called Bossman Fighters, Team Bossman. So he's currently creating a TikTok for me that's wrapped up quite a lot of views, but I don't have control over that at the moment. I don't really want control over. I don't really want on TikTok at the moment. Um, Too much social media can affect me sometimes. So as I say, I'm not that great with social media. So, certainly, I've not wanted to go into TikTok yet. I'm not sure why. I'm not very fond of TikTok for some reason. So, but he's got an account set up there that's doing not bad. And but yeah, mainly Facebook, on Instagram. That's the two social media platforms I'm on. So yeah, if you want to uh, hit a follow, you can actually see the life that I used to live. It's almost like a story. You see the cars and the parties and the thing, and then you see me maturing as a person. I think that's the best way to see it. You see me maturing as a person through my social media, and I like the person I'm becoming, and um, I'm not perfect. There's there's still you always can feel ropey sometimes, and I still make mistakes in life, but I far prefer this journey that I'm on than the journey I was on before.
Well, that is just pure inspiration, my friend. Absolutely pure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that more people join in on your socials so they can see the transformation, they can see and experience for themselves the message. Because, what you said earlier about speaking from the heart, it's not only speaking, it's just the way you carry yourself and the way you conduct yourself. It is very humble, it is very respectful, and very honest, very sincere. People can really see and feel the transformation. And I just, when you wear your heart on your sleeve, people need to see more of that in the world. So I hope that more people plug in. We'll wrap things up pretty much there. Anyone
Sure.
else you'd like to thank before we go? Because I know you thank like your coaches and your partner, and but just double checking that there's no one else you'd like to thank. If there's not, no worries. Anyone else?
So you put me on the spot there, but I just think I spoke a lot about coaches and stuff like that. I want to thank my mum and dad for being there for me in my life. They look after my kids a lot. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to box and go to work, because they help look after the kids. Also, my partner Fern Dixon, she's helped me massively in my life. We're together as a family. She's put up with some crap. She still has to put up with my crap to this day. I'm not easy to live with, and she allows me. She looks after all the kids, and I'm out training, and I'm out at work and working night shifts. So she puts up with a lot. So I want to say a massive thank you to my partner Fern and my mum and dad. I think that's the the, the area that I want to thank most at this point in time.
Absolutely. Well, that is
You
brilliant.
can see I keep on getting choked up through the interview because just everything's so real and passionate. It's embarrassing, but I don't care. It's fine.
Absolutely. Well, it's not embarrassing. I mean, it's again, that's a valuable lesson as well. That you can be like, as men, we need to show
Yep,
emotion. You can be tough, and you can also be gentle
yep,
and gentle.
yep,
And and my dad says it's a man of steel and velvet. Which is a strange way of putting it. But you've got like the soft way, and you've got like the hard, and you've got like the yin. They talk about like the yin and yang thing. Where you've got
yep.
you actually balance that really well, to be fair, like the masculine and the feminine. And I think that more people need to do that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's another thing, as men, I mean, yeah, we've got to protect our families and provide
Yep.
and do all of those things. And yeah, you've got to be able to face things and take pressure and all that. But you've also, like when you cry or feel emotions or show love and affection, it's not a weakness, I mean, you've got to have the both sides. So I think it's
I
a
think that's something that came from going to church. You become more, you become a bit more emotional. I think when you start believing in God, it's strange, but that's a topic for another day. But yeah, you do become more emotional and more sensitive when you believe in God, Jesus. That happened to me, and I've heard it happens to others as well.
It definitely does. It softens your heart. It happened
That's the word, softens your heart. Yeah,
happened to me as well. Absolutely, because I had a lot of the sensitivity, but life hardens it up, which is okay to have an armor, but it's
yep,
not. And it's like running too deep, and it's actually hardening your heart. And so I
yep.
had to soften that again. I went through a long process, and it's definitely a big part of it. But yeah, it's been an awesome interview today. I mean, it's been much better than what I expected, to be fair, mate. And I really do mean that hand on heart. I knew it would be good.
Thank you.
I knew it would be good, but I thought it would be more like the boxing, maybe a little bit of the mental health. And don't get me wrong, we've covered that, but then
Yeah.
like so much deeper stuff that really will really help people who listen to
It's
this.
just kind of detoured off from the topics we were meant to be talking about, but that's
It's
okay.
it's gone.
I can slaver all. I'm a big slaver here.
It's great, and what I mean is, it's better than I expected because I do these to help people, and with the content we've got today, it's really going to help people. I mean, it's like we've talked about the boxing and the fun stories and all the entertaining stuff, but we've got actual education and
Yeah.
meaning and inspiration. So, I'm well happy with that.
Do you know
Well,
what? One last thing, if anyone watches this and they need somebody to talk to, they're more than welcome to drop me a message and speak more deeply about things because that there's not many stones that I've not left unturned. I've experienced a lot in my life, and I've managed to battle through a lot in my life. And if we can help the littlest amount of people, then we're still gaining in life, aren't we? So if anyone's watching this, they're struggling, need advice with anything, any single dads out there that they don't have the mum, the mums are not present anymore or anything like that, because that topic's not talked about at all. You always hear about the woman, but you never hear about the man. Um, Hit me up, and I can pass you some advice or wisdom, uh, or just I can listen. All right. So thank you for getting on your podcast. I really appreciate it. I've had fun.
I've had fun too. I've had fun too. Honestly, way better than what I thought. Really great.
Great.
Give yourself a pat on the back, and yeah, we'll keep in touch. I will let you
Yeah.
know when I release this. Probably on the weekend. I'm gonna aim to get
Yep.
this, and we'll go from there. But yeah, well done.
Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon, and I'll keep in contact with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime. Happy to hear from you. God bless,
God
and
bless, man.
take
Take
care.
care. See
Bye.
ya.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.